Welcome to the Pour Man, where we're setting out to make a better cup of joe for the average Joe. On a previous episode, we talked about and discussed buying whole beans in the store instead of pre-ground coffee, and then grinding those whole beans at home with either a burr grinder or a blade grinder. On today's episode, we're going to be exploring one of the advantages of grinding your own whole beans at home, brewing coffee with the French press. So, for the normal French press brewing technique, you're going to need some of the same things you're going to need for any brewing technique. You're going to need your whole bean coffee. In this case, since you have a grinder at home, you are going to grind it on the coarse setting. Some people describe coarse grounds as breadcrumbs or a little coarser than table salt. And you need it coarse because the filter for this method is a fine mesh metal filter, and the coarse grounds can't pass through that fine metal mesh. And you need your carafe that's going to hold your coffee. On top of that, you're going to need your boiling water. Now, as for the water, you're going to need about 2 tablespoons of ground coffee for every 8 ounces of water. Now that not a science, that's a general guideline. You can play with that to change the flavor of your coffee, okay? 2 tablespoons for every 8 ounces. Now, I get usually 24 ounces out of my carafe, so that's 6 tablespoons. So, now that you have your water boiled, you have your grounds, your ratios, what you're gonna do is warm the carafe. You're gonna warm the container. You're gonna take some of your boiling water, and I usually pour 1/3 to half of the way. You don't have to fill the whole thing. All you need to do while you're doing this is to warm the container so you don't have any loss of heat. I like to take the filter and agitate the water like you see here. Gets the filter warm, it gets the rest of the glass warm, the piston warm, and the other nice thing about this is depending on how you clean your press, it gets rid of any of the soap or other residue you might have in there and gets it ready for the brew. You're gonna make sure you dump out this water because you don't want that in the coffee. Okay, carafe is warm now, nice and warm, ready for those grounds. So you take the grounds and you just pour them in. I usually like to make sure that they're settled on the bottom. Now, we're gonna pour the water, again, about 1/3 to half the way. When you pour, this is the first pour, the object here is to make sure that all of the grounds get saturated, get wet. I like to stop about here, and I like to play with my coffee, so I like to stir. You're gonna see, if you look on YouTube, tons of people saying this is sacrilege. I like to play with my coffee, so I'm gonna stir it. Once you're done with that, you're going to fill the rest of the way. All right, now we've finished our second pour. That is, we filled the entire carafe now. We're gonna let this brew for 3 to 4 minutes. Now again, we're gonna get on YouTube or see other videos. They're gonna say only 3, only 4. Play with it, okay? Just make sure you put this plunger, there's enough room on top of the plunger, the filter, to rest. Okay? Now, here's another thing I like to do when I play. You're gonna scrape the top. You're gonna break up this layer of grounds that's on the top. Again, some will say this is sacrilege. I like to play with my coffee. And what you're gonna be left with is this nice, oily, creamy surface. And those grounds, because they're coarse, will fall to the bottom of the carafe. This is when you press after the scrape. All right, we have now poured our second pour, which is filling our coffee all the way to the top. We let it brew now for 3 to 4 minutes. We scraped the surface, and by scraping the surface, have sent a lot of those coarse grounds to the bottom of the carafe. Now we're ready to press. And I want to say this isn't like flushing a toilet. It's not flushing a toilet. It is pressing coffee to the bottom. Do you have to hold your press like this? No, but I'm trying to illustrate that it doesn't take much force, especially if those grounds are coarse. Your press should flow down fairly slowly with not much pressure. If you have to put a lot of arm strength into this, your grinds or your grounds might be a little too fine. Once it gets to the bottom, you're ready to pour. We are now ready to pour into our cup, and I prefer to pour gentle. If you pour vigorously, the more sediment is going to get in your cup. Like those notes in your cup, please go ahead and pour away. But I'm going to pour rather gently, and I'm going to create the trickle. You are now ready to enjoy. If you ask 50 people about brewing coffee, you'll get 48 different answers. That means that 2 out of those 50 people you ask would actually agree about what they're saying. Light roast only, dark roast only, stir, don't stir, 3-minute brew time, 4-minute brew time, water temperature, too hot, too cold, coarseness of ground. Yikes! It's enough to turn someone off of coffee. Our Pour Man episode today was just about guidelines, just some basic guidelines. In the end, it's about you, your preferences, your coffee experience. No one holds the rights to that. So take these guidelines and try different things, explore with ratios. Enjoy your cup of coffee.